Thank you for coming to the Downing Cut today. My special guest is Michael Rognlie. He is a versatile, award-winning filmmaker with extensive experience as a director, writer, producer, cinematographer, and actor across multiple short films, music videos, and TV series. From his production company, On the Fence Productions. Okay.
Yeah,
His notable works include Gary, Paradise, and The Need, showcasing his multifaceted talented in storytelling and visual production, with a new film coming soon called Bad Chemistry. Welcome to the Downing Cut, Michael. How are you?
thank you, Joe. I'm great. It's thanks for having me here. Really excited to talk shop and get into the weeds.
Well, I'm excited to get to know you a little bit, and I've seen your films at film festivals, so I know that much. And I've taken a look at your website, and we'll put all the links to all of your contact information in the show notes. What I like to ask everyone when they come on here is, how did your journey start? What sparked the interest to become a director, an actor, producer in that whole timeline? And how did you end up where you are now?
Right. I think growing up in my household, uh, there was always wild stories and tall tales, all true, but just kind of caught on in storytelling and creating scenarios, whether that comes from people watching and just making up an entire scenario about what's happening, even though you have no clue. Just kind of something that my mind is doing frequently. And growing up, I always had friends that had camcorders or video cameras, and my thing was always like, "Hey, let's make a little film or get together and just mess around with the camera." And that turned into making films with friends as a hobby, and then just got, I guess, more and more serious. Where I wanted, every time I started to make a film, for the film to be better. And then friends turned into actors, and then turned into collaborating with other team members and kind of getting involved in the film community and building a network of really great people to be inspired by. Really,
Wow. How old were you when you guys started filming?
fifth or sixth grade, kind
Wow.
of got a little bit interested in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about were you the one? It sounds like you were kind of an organizer. You said, "Hey, let's just make something." Were
Mm-hmm.
you then the director, or did you lean towards more of the acting?
Uh, Probably leaning towards directing more. While I have been in my films in the past, I prefer to be behind camera. Not saying I won't
Interesting.
dabble in acting here or there going forward, but I think the
Yeah.
fun part for me is in the other side.
Did you was it all hands on, or did you go through any kind of actual training in at college or school or anything?
Uh, I've taken a couple just like courses, not through school, but extracurricular courses in the past. But I've had mentors that I've learned a lot from, people that either, like, when I was first getting into it, they had a videography business, um, and maybe that was more like on the corporate commercial side of film and camera work and stuff. But I still picked up a lot from that, and then I just learned by doing mostly,
Yeah.
and watching other people's films and getting inspiration.
Yeah. Well, I will say that your films, what stands out is, I mean, I think this is important for our audience because learning by just doing is so powerful. I've seen the work of people who went to school, and your films are better. I'm just saying.
No,
So it is a skill set to continue to pursue and practice and practice. Now, on your IMDb, I see 4 films that you've been an actor in. I believe 2 of them you're leads, and we're going to dive into that. But your experience as a director, directing actors, your experience as being an actor, I always ask people, what would you say makes a good actor? And if you could name off like maybe the top three attributes of a good actor.
What makes a good actor is, I mean, subjective, I guess, to any other director, but for me, it would be, how natural does this look and feel and sound when we're playing this scene. If acting for the stage, of course, is totally different and like maybe a little bit more exaggerated, which is quite different than television and also narrative film. So I guess it depends on what we're doing, but generally, I would lean towards natural. If you were found yourself in this conversation or this circumstance and this was happening to you, you know, that's what I want to see come across. And I don't know if I could deliver that as an actor, but that's what I would want someone to do if I was a director.
But yeah, I was wondering if like if you said, I mean, you see some of the A-listers, you're like they're the same in every movie that they're in,
Right.
but at the same time they're being themselves. I mean, it is, and what you're saying is subjective, right? When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to how you're judging somebody. Have you asked one of your actors? Hey, let's just
Maybe
pick.
when Nick Cage is in my film, I'll ask him to dial it up into a Nick Cage level.
That's awesome. All
Yeah.
right, so we got a good intro from you. So, as someone who has directed both narrative shorts and music videos, how does your approach to storytelling change depending on the format?
I feel like stories should always have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Um, and even if that's a music video that has a story, I'd like to tell that visually in some regard, as long as it makes sense for the song and what the band wants to do. But I don't know if there's much a difference between the way I envision a music video and a narrative film going as far as having a story. I mean, I've seen plenty of films that don't really have a story. They just open, especially in the horror realm, then something happens and there's a jump scare. And those are sometimes they're really good and done very well, but there wasn't really a story to follow that's very engaging. And I always I want things to be engaging for the audience because that's what I'm want to pay attention and watch the whole thing rather than 30 seconds of it and get bored.
When you're doing a music video, are you like, how does that work? I've never done a music video, and I've seen people that have done it that is amazing. Is there like, do you storyboard each shot? Are you going from scene to scene? Are you looking at the words in the song? How does that all work?
A little bit of all of it, although I'm probably the worst person in storyboarding practice. I ideally always think I'm going to storyboard this whole thing, and I'll end up storyboarding maybe one or two pivotal scenes. And then next thing I know, we're on set and we're shooting, and I was like, I didn't get a chance to storyboard this scene. And then what's the point of going back and doing it after the fact I've already shot the scene? But I will definitely attest to if I have storyboarded a scene, the shoot always goes better.
Yeah.
So I should follow my own advice.
Just some pencil sketches or just get some. What about music videos? Like, I mean, because a music video, there is no script per se. There might be a shot
Right.
list, right?
Sure.
But and then you're just determining which shot goes with what as far as the segment of the song. Is that how that works?
Yeah, I'll listen to the song, I'll listen to the lyrics, I'll talk with the artist about what does this song mean? What are you trying to portray? How how can we do that visually? And I'll kind of brainstorm some ideas. And I really like it to be a collaborative process. But ultimately, if you're hired as the director, like you're supposed to kind of figure out what they're going to do and kind of guide them. So yeah, I take all of that into consideration. Now, I haven't directed a ton of music videos, but the ones I have, I've definitely um, really put a lot of thought into the concept of, is there a story and how's that going to look and how are we going to do that once we get on set rather than improvising improvising it on the spot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for most of it, like I haven't done it, so just hearing from your perspective is meaningful because you at least put your toe in the water and you've accomplished it. What
Right.
so your work spans from 2003's The Snowdrifter
Oh
to
God.
recent projects like
Yeah.
Paradise and Hollow Ian Horror Hour. Say that's a mouthful.
Yes.
How has your creative process evolved over the years, and what has remained consistent?
My creative process over the years has evolved quite a bit. Um, I guess when first starting out, I wouldn't really put as much thought into a shot list or um, what it ultimately is going to look like. I maybe have a basic idea of a story, and sometimes I wouldn't even have like fleshed out dialogue. Um, and I might show up with an idea and just be like, "Hey guys, let's do this," and then convince everybody that we should be making a movie. And lo and behold, I pull out, a loosely written script, and then we do it, and then everyone's like, "All right, next time, let's not do that." But yeah, I think from there it's evolved quite a bit into, you know, if I'm writing the script, I've written it, I've rewritten it a bunch of times. I might have sent it out for like a professional script review, take notes, rewrite it again, and then even before we talk about, casting, have a meeting with my collaborators over at Tapped House, who we work on the Halloween Horror Hour on Scary TV, and talk about, is this a project that you guys want to collaborate on? If so, let's have a meeting and move forward on it. And then, casting, and then making a full on shot list, uh, down to, what lens I'm envisioning. Um, I edited first before I directed photography or was a director. So when I'm set, I'm thinking about post a lot. So I
Yeah.
think when I'm doing the shot list, I'm also thinking about transitions and how this is all going to fit together so that I have the coverage I need when I'm editing this. Or if I wasn't the editor, passing it off to somebody that has everything they need. So I think the way it's evolved is quite significantly for me in that regard.
Is it since you've started off as an editor and you're directing your own films, have you found it difficult to hand it off to another editor to
Yes.
do?
I would never do it.
Right. Because I mean, I know the feeling because you have your vision and you're the DP, you're the cinematographer, you're making it, you're directing it, and you're editing as you go. Um, I would find it difficult to kind of hand it off. And if for the films that you have handed off to other editors, have you ever done that?
No,
Oh, okay. So we don't have to go down that path.
right? We don't have to go down that. Well, actually, the only thing I've handed off is like a 48-hour film festival that I said beforehand, I will DP it, but I will not be the editor also. And so I handed that off, and I was okay with that actually. So yes,
Yeah.
I have done it one time.
All right. So just between you and the rest of the world and myself, when you saw the cut from the 48, did you critique it or did you go, that's all right. That works.
Well, it works. It's a good edit. I'll say that. The guy
Yeah.
that edited it's a buddy of mine, and he might watch this. It's a good edit.
It was a great job. It was fantastic.
I do have my own edit, I'll say, also
Yeah.
of it. So
In Gary and Dark Monday, you played lead roles in addition to directing. How does being both in front and behind the camera shape your storytelling perspective?
before, when I was thinking of storytelling, and either be that Dark Monday or Gary, I always say, well, if I'm writing the story and I'm filming it, I need to make sure it's something I can actually do. Because if I write it, I want to make it. I've written things that haven't been made. Sorry, written things that haven't been made yet. Um, but my idea was always like, if I write it, I want to make it. And so in my writing, I was almost limiting myself to, well, I can't write that. That can't happen because how am I to film that? I don't have that kind of budget. Um, and so after Gary, um, I stopped putting a limitation on myself and just started writing for writing. And now, of course, like you try to pull off some of the things you've written down, and maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but we'll see when people see bad chemistry. But that was a story that was written without, my own self limits limiting on where I want to go with the story. And I think being not being an actor in it, it just makes that all the more possible. Because if I was the actor, I don't know that I could pull it off like some other really good actor in the area might be able to do.
Did you find it hard acting and directing as far as wearing both hats?
For Gary, I made it during the pandemic when we are all like stuck at home. So that was actually
Mm-hmm.
pretty easy to act and direct in that. I don't think that is any harder other than me living up to the expectations that I would have of myself as an actor,
Yeah.
which I I don't I don't want to say I'm terrible, but also there are much better actors than I, and so I think I just again not saying I won't ever act again, but I'd be interested in being in someone else's film if they were the director and experience working with someone else, kind of shaping my character. I think that would be interesting.
Do you ever make cameos for the films that you're not acting in?
No, I don't make cameos, but I do love Easter eggs, and I will put cameos of previous films in new films. So, in The Need, which just finished its festival run um, that collaborated with the folks over at Tapped House on, there's some Easter eggs to Gary in that film. Um,
Interesting.
and in Bad Chemistry, there's a couple of Easter eggs to The Need and Gary. They're real deep Easter eggs. I don't know if anyone will figure them out, but they're there.
That's good. You're ready. You're ready for your cult following. That's pretty much.
Yeah.
I've worked for a director, and he was my mentor, and I still have some of the props. And he was like, "Put them in your film." I was like,
Nice.
oh, that would be an Easter egg.
Yeah. I love doing that with props for sure. Now I watched the trailer for your film Cousin. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, cousin. Yeah,
Cousin. Yeah, that looks really good, and it was cool to see some familiar faces with other actors that I've worked with before, like in there. When is that coming out anytime soon? Really interested in.
we. Who are you familiar with? Who do you know?
So
Let's do shout outs.
yeah, let's do Erica. Um, she looked like she was a reporter at the end.
Yep.
So we worked on a 48 together, and then also she was in a film, The Apophenia, that I DP'd on, and then Giovanni uh, Vasquez, I think.
Vasquez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
He was also in The Apophenia. They're both from them. And then Dennis. Um,
Dennis
Dennis
Moore.
was in um, a friend of mine, Giovanna, directed this story, Unlikely Event, where it was a comedy in there, and he was
Oh
in
yeah.
that. So it's a small world. It's really cool to see all these people. Yeah.
Yeah. It. I mean, that's great. And then we can talk about him behind camera.
How was it working with
Giovanni's gonna be he's gonna be the lead in my next film, and so
him? Oh,
we're
nice.
prepping
Yeah.
that up. Yeah, be good. So you've directed projects across from multiple genres, drama to horror. What are the unique challenges of balancing your vision with the audience's expectations in each genre?
Well, I'll start with horror because that's probably my favorite genre to dabble in. I just love horror movies. Audiences have a bunch of expectations in a horror movie. They want to be scared. They want original ideas, twists. Didn't see that coming. Um, it's to deliver on any of those. Like in the past, I've been at a screening and heard a gasp or someone jump scare at something that I did, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
So to have delivered on those is awesome. And sometimes they don't hit, right. I mean, not where I thought, oh, this is going to be really scary, or someone's going to get teary eyed, or this will be funny. Wasn't at the time. Yeah, but I mean, you always hope to, have the audience engaged in the way that they expect for the genre, right? I think that's hard, and comedy is really hard. I'd love to do more comedies, but I don't think the opportunity's arisen yet. I keep dabbling in horror. No complaints. I love horror.
What about mixing horror and comedy though?
I'm a fan of horror comedy.
Yeah.
Um, I have a couple horror comedy ideas on the back burner.
So in The Need and The Wine, you serve both as a director and cinematographer. How do you ensure that your visual storytelling enhances the narrative without overshadowing it?
That's a great question. I think someone is more apt to be able to deliver the look and feel of the narrative if you are the writer and also the director and cinematographer. Um, and if it doesn't, then you don't have anybody else to yell at. Um, but yeah, I find the really cohesive roles for me anyway, being the director and cinematographer.
Yeah. When
I like,
you're
yeah, kind of like in going into it, I know like I might look at like mood boards or like kind of have an idea about what I want it to look and feel like, and then you know being able to act on that or deliver that is a bonus, right? Hopefully, I pull it off.
as a cinematographer and the director, obviously you're creating your shot list, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you strict on that? Are you going by your shot list?
Fairly strict on the shot list, uh, but like let's say you're on set with your AD and I was like, okay, what's next? And then we're talking about okay, this, that, or the other, and I'm thinking sometimes on the spot I'd be like, no, we're cutting that. This works. We're just going to get this one, or we already covered that in this last shot. So sometimes we're crossing out and skipping things that once you get there, to me, might feel excessive or um, nice to have, don't need to have it kind of thing. If there's time, let's go back and get it. So yeah, there's some of that going on, and also a lot of uh, very open to ideas, no matter where it comes from. If you're on set with me and you're like, hey, what about this? I want to hear it because it could be a really great idea, and let's try it and see if we can make it work.
Have you ever had that happen?
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
every time.
that's good.
Yeah,
I'm laughing because my experience. I same thing. Director, cinematographer. I can make my shot list, and I start filming, and people are like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I just did one, two, three. These are the shots that's covering.
yeah,
Just mark all those off." Okay,
yeah.
because they're
Yeah,
expecting me to do a setup, right, for every
right,
single one. I'm like, nope, I'm just moving in. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go. We're gonna get that wide,
yeah,
medium, push in. Just mark it off.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that kind of it made people go, okay, let's not suggest anything because Joe's going on a tangent. He's just going for it.
he's going for it. Yeah, yeah. I always, when we get on set, we do like a meeting and we talk about we call it our safety meeting, but the order of how we do it: be safe, have fun. Uh, we're going to make something. It's going to be good, and we're going to finish it. And not necessarily always in that order, but those are our we set out with an intention for our goals for the day, and then by the end of the day, when we wrap, we've done everything on the list. So
Very cool. Man of accomplishment. So you've been involved in every step of filmmaking, from writing, directing, sound design, visual effects. What aspect of filmmaking do you find the most creatively fulfilling, and why?
probably cinematography.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
and why? I guess like just being creative on set with shaping light and the composition that goes into a shot and creating depth from just an image is exciting creatively for me. Um, but then I also like I really love post stuff. I love editing. So when I get off set and I come home and then I've got all this footage, this raw footage to play around with, and that's really exciting too because the movie's
Yeah.
made in the edit, right? Ultimately, so those two
Hmm.
aspects, the cinematography and the editing, are probably my favorite.
Do you when you're done with your rough cut, do you send it out to your peers or anybody to kind of get feedback, criticism?
Sometimes I'll have a couple people I'll show it to, um, and yeah, just to get some immediate feedback. A lot of times, especially if I'm staring at a screen for hours, you need a fresh set of eyes on something, just in case I missed it, or there's that this doesn't look as saturated. And I'll just keep saturating this, and then you go on and on and on, and then you look at it later, and you're like, the end of the movie doesn't look like the beginning of the movie at all. So then you go back and tweak it. So I think
Yeah,
that happens a lot if you're staring at it for too long.
yeah. I had and cousin, I sent it out to one of the actors. And he goes, "It looks so dark." I said, "Turn up the brightness on your phone."
That's funny.
I mean, it was dark. I was trying to learn how to color correct, so I'm like, it's supposed to be that way. That's yeah.
Yeah.
How do you handle constructive criticism if someone says, "Hey, I didn't really get that part," or the scene it seemed really long? Are you welcome to those type of comments?
Yeah, for sure. I love constructive criticism. Constructive.
Constructive,
I'm open to it. Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes I might walk away and be like, yeah, you just don't get what I'm trying to do. But
yeah,
yeah, I'm open to it for sure.
yeah. I could relate to that. So your experience spans from smaller indie projects to more ambitious endeavors, like Hallow Ian Horror Hour. I
Yeah.
kind of just have to slow myself. How do you adapt your approach when working with different budgets and production scales?
Yeah. My with Halloween Horror Hour is mostly Tapped House, Ian Talent and Sam Mostovoy are my two like main collaborators who we make these indie films and also that television show with. So they spearhead a lot of that, and I do some writing on the show, and then I also do a lot of the editing, and then I'm the cinematographer on the show. So when I show up for that, um, it's such a fun set and goofy type, almost like I think it would be like SNL or some kind. It's like a variety show. There's
Oh,
skits and
okay.
it's comedy, so it's all like vibes and fun. And we're organized, but it's and I'm not saying it's not serious, but it's there's not a lot of the same amount of pressure going on to that set as there is like we booked this studio space and we've got X amount of hours and monies and budget are on the line and
Yeah,
people's time, so we need to like make sure we get what we set out to do. So there's different self pressure that probably goes on each of those. And I'm
interesting.
not sure if
Yeah.
I
Well,
answered the question. I maybe even forgot what you asked, but maybe it was
no, I mean, No, you
Yeah,
answered it. I mean, it sounds like the pressure really comes down to time.
yeah,
The amount of time you have from a studio versus doing another project, and that's the kind of variable, if you will, when it comes to the amount of how you're going to look at a project. And if you're
mhm,
coming in like here, let's go, let's get this done.
yeah,
Um, so sound design is crucial, but often overlooked from aspects of storytelling. How do you integrate sound into your directional vision, especially in films like Gary and Dark Monday?
yeah. I love doing sound design. Um, I lump it in there with editing in post. It's just one of my favorite things to do. I always like love making mixtapes or curating some kind of listening experience, and I liken sound design and film to that a little bit. I think sound is really important, and it should be the least overlooked thing. If you want to do well in a film festival, your film has to sound good. Um, I know they say lighting is everything. Lighting is everything. Sound is also everything too. So all of it is everything. Um,
No
and yeah,
pressure.
important to have a field sound recorder that knows what they're doing. I certainly wouldn't know what I'm doing. I'm not a field sound recorder, but I know what a good dialogue track sounds like when it's handed off to me. Um, and so, like when I am doing sound design, first thing I'll do is I'll treat all the dialogue, and then I'll go through and then I'll mute that and I'll watch the cut without any sound at all, and I'm kind of scanning the entire screen. What's happening? What are the sounds that would be happening if this were a real life situation, and then you know caressing those sounds so it sounds real, right? You don't want it to sound like sound design or like, oh, you added Foley there, I can tell. You want it to be like
Yeah,
just like in a natural environment. And there's so many little sounds that happen in any room at any given time that could be happening. And so I just love going through and finding that and sourcing those sounds, or if I can't find them, creating them myself and then sticking them in the movie.
interesting. Now you do horror. Let me ask you this from a sound perspective. You know, a lot of horror. I mean, a lot of films have tropes in it, right? The typical thing. Do you find that sound also falls into those categories?
Mm-hmm.
How do you avoid? Do you embrace that, or do you try to go in a different direction?
Kind of lean into it a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, I try to stay clear of like ubiquitous tropes in horror. But sometimes, you have to have them in there. Like you should probably have a jump scare in your film if it's horror. Um, and there's a formula to that, right? To make it effective. And sound plays a huge part in that. A lot of times I'll go back and watch jump scares from films repeatedly and listen for sometimes the sound comes in before you see the scare.
yeah,
Sometimes it's right at after, sometimes it's right at the same time, and each one has kind of a different effect. So I try to, whatever the scene calls for, whatever has that, you know, the most effect you can get with that sound when it should come in. That there's an art to that, I suppose.
absolutely. I mean, that's. I think the films that always tend to resonate with me are the ones that make me feel anxious. It's like what I'm watching is making me feel anxious. Why is it making me feel anxious? And then you're
Oh,
like, that's a great film.
yeah.
So how do you continue to innovate in storytelling in the horror genre and continue to try new things, but also serving the your audience what they want as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of really good new horror films that came out over the last couple of years that I feel are really innovative and either an original idea or yes, I can see where you got that idea from, but you made it new with this cool little twist. That's so inspiring for me because I that's what I strive to do in whatever I'm writing or horror movies. So um yeah, I whatever that is, I'm constantly going, all right, here's the pitch. And then it just pops in my head and I'll throw it off some people and they'll say no, or yeah, that sounds good. You should do something with that. And
Yeah.
so, hopefully I'm pulling that off. Or I think I didn't write The Need, but a good buddy of mine did. And I thought that was a really original story, really engaging story. And then Bad Chemistry, this new film that just sent off to festivals. Really excited about that. That's a story that I wrote that it feels pretty original.
Yeah, let's talk. That was my next question about what you're working on now and what's happening
Yeah.
in the near future. So let's talk about Bad Chemistry. What's the log line for that?
After a after a brutal attack that leaves her boyfriend dead, a traumatized young woman goes to stay with his parents, only to learn they are not what they seem.
How did that idea come to you?
So last year, The Need had just around this time had just started getting into festivals, and it premiered at Bleedingham Film Festival up in Bellingham, which is a great local horror film festival. A lot of fun. The Saturday night Washington Shorts always sells out. It's a full crowd. It's just really cool to test your film there in a live audience, and all the films are like top notch. Good competition. Um, so The Need took home third best story last year.
Nice.
I didn't write The
Congratulations.
Need. That was great for my buddy Kenny who wrote it. Um, but that really like fired me up. I was like, oh, I'm so inspired after seeing these films that I felt, like a lot of them were just so much better than what I came in with. It inspired me to go write and try to make, up my game a little bit.
Yeah.
And then immediately after Bleedingham, I went to the Horror 48 and I watched a film block there. I didn't contribute last October, but I had some friends that had films there. So I went and watched that. And then on the way home, it just had an idea as I was driving home, a windy road through the woods. Something spooky popped in my head, and I came home and I just immediately started writing it. And so it was just the idea sprung from this thing happened. Let's build a story around that one thing happening. Like, why did this happen? What happens after that? What led up to this? What
Yeah.
are the consequences because of this that happened? And that's kind of how Bad Chemistry materialized.
I'm looking at your cast. Jonathan Holbrook. How was it to work with him?
Jonathan's great. Jonathan's very tall. That's why I noticed we're in Jonathan. And the scene with Jonathan was in a car. So having him and then his counterpart, Jennifer Corbridge, who's not, 7 feet tall. Sorry, Jonathan, I know how tall you are, but that's how you appear to me. It was challenging to get the shot right with how tall he was, and it was like moving seats all the way down and moving the other one up.
Oh
But
my gosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a really cool, jolly giant. I love Jonathan.
Now you've worked with Michael. I don't know how you pronounce this.
Michael
Munoz?
Munoz. Munoz.
Munoz?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've worked with him several times.
No,
How is it?
that's the first time working with Michael on
Yeah.
Bad Chemistry. Um, Michael is in another project that I just finished doing sound design on. Although I wasn't on set with Michael, but we're in that same project together in that way.
Okay.
Um, yeah, this Bad Chemistry would be the first film that I've worked on with Michael. Michael's great.
So it's in festivals right now. When did you enter? Beginning of the year?
Let's hope it's in festivals right now. I just finished post on it like on September 20th, 21st,
Okay.
and sent it off. So
Nice.
It's in the official selection in one festival in Los Angeles right now. That's it so far, and I think it's out for maybe 4 or 5 right now. And then there's kind of a lull in festivals until the spring, at least for some of the bigger ones. So
Yeah.
I may not know, or you may not hear a whole lot about the film until spring or summer rolls around when festivals start picking up, especially some of the local Seattle ones. So hopefully it'll get into those other ones, and people will have a chance to see it
Yeah.
sooner
Well,
than later.
what's your experience with festivals? I mean, since you do comedies, you do horror. I imagine. I mean, horror seems like it gets into a lot of festivals because of the
It
genre,
does, and
right?
there's a lot of horror genre specific festivals, um, and yeah, I mean, festivals are interesting. So they're the joy or whatever, or the immediate like feedback you get if you get an official selection. Oh, that's great, my film got in. Now what?
Yeah.
Then and maybe they give you an award, and then you get a laurel to put on a piece of paper. And hopefully the festival is also one that has like some networking events that you can go out and like talk to people and make some connections, which I absolutely hate doing, but I value them if festivals do that kind of thing, because I think that's part of it, and you should be doing those things. So I've had festivals that had that aspect to them where there's networking, or they have a kickoff party, everyone gets together. Those are fun. And then yeah, some festivals just tend to be online, which is cool also for just getting your film out there and people seeing it like all over the world. That's also really neat. Ultimately, I think people, as filmmakers, we just want people to watch our film. Um, but doing it, of course, with a live audience in a packed theater is really cool.
Yeah. I think that's. I think I can see the joy and empathize if you're sitting in the back row and you're watching the audience and your film, and they jump right when you want them to.
There's
What?
pretty
Okay,
not
so
than that.
what was that?
There's not much cooler than that. Yeah.
You're right. So, from an actor's perspective, I've been an actor for 20 years, and I think a lot of my peers, the main goal of an actor is to go to LA, get cast, make it big, right?
Mhm.
Getting to something that's juicy, and you can be a full time actor, I should say. What would that be to you? What is your main goal as a director, cinematographer?
Right. Well, I mean, that would certainly be cool if I could just do that, make films. I would make films all the time. That would certainly be nice. I do it just because I just love doing it. I love filmmaking, um, and I will continue to do so as long as I'm able to. Yeah, if there was a payoff on the other side of it, where then I got to be like Ari Aster and make horror movies for A24, that would be really cool. Yeah,
Dream come true.
yeah.
All right, Michael, we're going to dock the ship here. I got three more questions for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite film production technology or tech? Film
Ooh,
tech.
yeah. A couple favorites, but right off the bat, I own some lighting gear as a cinematographer, and I've invested in the Aperture or Amaran line, and I really love the Citus Link app. So it Bluetooth to all my lights, and it saves so much time because once you set it, you don't have to drop your stands down and change settings or anything like that. You can do it all in the app. So saves a lot of time. That's probably my favorite piece of tech that I have. And then lighting wise, I really love the spotlight mount. So just an attachment that can Bowen's mount is like a universal type of mount on lightings, and it attaches, and you can put gobos in there and project like different shadows on the wall, to make a shot more interesting. So
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite things to use on set to make a cool look shot with a lot of depth.
See, I thought you were going to say something about a lens.
Lenses are exciting, but time is always a thing, and so if I can solve the anxiety that comes from time with a app to do all that quick setup, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That means get more shots, spend more time doing more takes, uh, and then I mean, lighting gear is really for me is
That's it.
exciting to work with.
What camera do you use?
I shoot on a Blackmagic Pocket 4K camera.
Nice.
I also have a Panasonic GH5 that I used before that, and then we have a buddy that's got the 6K Blackmagic, and then I got another buddy with 4K. So usually our team's got two or three Blackmagic cameras on set,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
then in Bad Chemistry we did rent the Ursa Mini 12K Pro Blackmagic camera because
Wow.
it shoots 240 frames per second, and there's a particular shot where we wanted to capture some really slow motion, and
That's
so that
cool.
that was really cool. It looks beautiful, although at 240 frames per second you need a lot of light, and I did not anticipate that, and I was not as prepared as I should have been.
That's cool though. I mean, yeah, I can't imagine that. What, as a director, writer, cinematographer, what are your thoughts on AI?
Try to use real people. I want to use real people and real artists always. I don't like the idea of AI in art. Um, I understand it's going to be a part of the future no matter what, and so we should probably learn and be familiar and use it appropriately, but not to create a poster or um, take the place of like a VFX person, right? I understand
Mhm.
like some like software plugins have AI integrated into them, and I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Like if especially like some like sound stuff, like if you want to remove the rustle from a lav or echoey or verb, uh, some of the AI smart apps. I'm the sound guy. I'm not replacing anybody's job. I'm the sound guy, so I'm using
Yeah.
it to make my job a little bit easier.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you edit with? What do you edit on?
So I edit in both Premiere and DaVinci Resolve.
Which one do you prefer?
I prefer. I've been working in Premiere for long enough where it's just so second nature to me that I'm more comfortable editing in Premiere. But I color grade in DaVinci, and I do my sound in Premiere because that links to Adobe Audition, just like
Mm.
launch right into the app. Um, and then I do VFX in both After Effects and Fusion in DaVinci. So both, just depending on what it is I'm trying to
Nice.
do.
Yeah. Uh, how is that workflow from Premiere to DaVinci? I've never done it.
It's pretty easy actually. So let's say you edited a film. You export like XML file, final
Hmm.
as if you're going to go to Final Cut Pro, but you don't. And then in DaVinci, you import a timeline, and that XML file will bring in your entire edit. Just
Okay.
but still like in Blackmagic or BRAW files that I work in. So I'll bring the BRAW files right into DaVinci and then color grade them and then export that and then open that export back in Premiere and finish up the sound. Is
Oh,
kind of my
interesting.
workflow.
Okay. Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate your time and sharing your film. How can people reach out to you if they want to connect with you, work for you, be in one of your films?
Yeah, you can contact me through my website on thefenceproductions.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at Miro makes movies. Miro makes movies.
What does that mean?
That's Michael Rognlie. That's my initials.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how did On the Fence Productions get its name?
Yeah, that's a funny story. When I was making films with some of my buddies growing up, the one of my buddies, his name is Mike, and if we were gonna try to plan making a movie, he'd always be like, I don't know, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. I don't know if I can do it. And that just stuck. So
So now you're like, does he still work with you on film?
occasionally, yeah, it's kind of a rip at him, I guess, the name of the company. So
Exactly. You're like, in your face.
yeah,
Now it's a production company. See? That's awesome. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate your time.
thanks, Joe.
And we will put all the links in the show notes for you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, man.